Thank you very much for this nice introduction. And first I would like to thank Jerry Pollack and the organizers to invite us to come here. I say us because there's also Regina C. Henschel together with me. She's sitting here in the front. If you have questions and see us later, you can ask her or me for all of this, because she has long experience in this, what we did. So what we did dates back to the Cold War. Because I was at the university and designing rockets and satellites, and the Americans and the Russians tried to be the first on the moon and before in space. And then the Russians always came back from their space trip and were not so dead as the Americans. The Russians were fresher, and there was a saying that the Russians treated their astronauts by electromagnetic waves. And so I had some experience with electromagnetic waves just for fun, with bioresonance, and I told the physicians in Germany, we should go after this, and probably this will work. I know that it works. And they laughed at me. And then I said, why do they laugh? I should find a substance which leaves, where the electromagnetic waves leave a footprint in. And this substance should be in the body, if this would be possible. So this was a crazy idea. And then I remembered 70% of the Earth's surface is water. Water has 60 anomalies, and water is a very interesting substance. And then the question came up, does water maybe have a memory? Does matter has a memory? And because I knew we had in aerospace materials with memory, these materials you can load, for example, give a stress, and then there's a plastifying or a change of the molecular structure, and then you have a different stiffness, and then you unload, and then you come back, and then it remembers this stiffness change. And there are lots of 25 maybe kinds of such materials. And so I said, why should this happen only in a material? We also have in a liquid maybe the possibility to have different patterns showing up in this liquid, and also the organization of these patterns could mean there is a memory. Maybe I could show something if these patterns change. And since all our bodies are about 7% water and the plants even more, I looked for the degree of order change in this material. And then because I had nothing, no real big microscope or something else, what did we do? We said, it has to be so simple that everybody of you here can do it at home. Well, so we built up a little lab. This is our lab now in Stuttgart. And what you see, the main thing, is a microscope. This is a dark field microscope, and you see a camera. And a video camera is also integrated. And what you else see are all these glass plates. I have such a glass plate. Glass plate is like this, looks like this here. And you put now, from the water you want to investigate, you take a syringe. This is a syringe. You go to the water, you take drops out of the water with the syringe, and you put these drops on the glass plate. So this is my probe. Yeah, I put it on the glass plate, and I put of about, say, 12 drops on the glass plate. Of course, I clean the glass plate before, then I put the glass plate under this microscope, and then the drops dry. Takes maybe 5 minutes or so on until they dry. And when these drops are dried, then you probably expect nothing, or you expect something because the water was not clean. on the drops. So we are looking at this pattern of the dry drops. And how do they look like? Do they have order? Do they have disorder? Oops. This is one of the pictures you see. This is it's a crystal, a salt crystal, built, partly filled, means the form has been there and the content is coming up. So this is about a magnification of 400. Normally we take a magnification of 40. So this is a magnification of 40. You see a salt sugar solution, and you see from both pictures what kind of high order appears on the glass plate. So this order, this is now our thought, must have been before in the water and is then presented on this glass plate. This, of course, not the total information which is in the water. That's a part of this information. So we will not have a full picture. So now what's about disorder? So this is a human saliva. A drop of human saliva, and you see, this is before a treatment and after a treatment. So treatment changes the order of the saliva from here to there. This was done within 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes later. You see, here's a high order. This we call high order, and this we call lower degree of order. So now we are starting more systematically for this. First, I show you how the droplets dry. Oops. So they dry, of course, from outside to inside. This is the name of the water. So we have the drop, and they dry from outside to inside. Here again, it's not so clear, but you see this is moving a little bit from outside to inside. So this is a slower drying drop. This is a tap water from Stuttgart, from our tap, you see, coming, and it's coming not gradually, it comes gradually, but in steps. This is another drop to see how similar they are. This is another water. You see, depending on what kind of water you have and what's in the water, you see, well, different colors, of course, but as I show you later, you see also different patterns, different structures. So this is also of interest because this is a little bit eccentric. You will see later that eccentricity also means something. This is the one drop. You see another drop now. Yeah, that's the next drop. Yeah. So, but basically what you can expect is, of course, always a round, more or less round drop at the drying from outside. This is a saliva, and saliva comes from the outside to the inside, and then you see then dendritic kind of dendritic structures inside. This depends very, very much on the person. So everybody of you will have a different saliva here. This is mate tea, this is the tea. So you see, we don't hesitate to take everything what we find in life for such investigations. So to tell this already at the beginning, the hypothesis is in the drop. In the photograph, we have a different, we can imagine there are different kind of layers, information layers. There's the water itself with its history. There are external impacts, like, for example, I do a radiation on or whatever, or sound. Then the time plays a role, how long the water is sitting with this information. In contrast to the normal physical instruments, the experimenter plays a role. I will show you later that there's an interaction between this drop on the microscope and the experimenter in front of the microscope. So, which we learned very late, but but there's no question that's the case. So now I show you a little bit how different drops might look like. This is a drop of Bad Meren, looks like a cut tree. This is a drop of Fiumofreddo. This is a water, a health water of Italy. This is a drop of a mine in Germany, which is of 1,100 meters under the surface, deep, was it collected. So, and this is a glacier bay, a glacier drop from glacier water. This, just to give you an idea what's the field where we are. So this is Chinese drop of Beijing, tap water of Beijing. And here you see, this is tap water, not from Beijing, of Stuttgart, before boiling. Looks like this, and after boiling, just boiled up, cooled down, looked at it, and you see the boiling changes, obviously, the structure somehow, so that this picture is different before and later. So many people of Ayurveda and so boil the water, and so we go after this and see maybe what it means. So if you put something living into the drop, then you normally get a center. So this is an Irish mouse, was 70 days in water, a little kernel of this Irish mouse. And then you take out of the glass, of course, out of this glass where this was in, you take drops. And you put them on your glass plate, and then you see all these drops look like this. Not identical, but very similar. So the information, obviously, from this living seed was going into this water, and the seed maybe says, hey, I'm here, I look like this. Yeah? What's around, who hears me? Yeah? So you can do simpler things. You can put a flower, a Sweet William flower, into my glass. And then you will have such a structure. Not only one, all structures look like this. And you can have a petunia flower, and then you have this structure. If you compare this, you see, from the water I can see what kind of flower was in there, even days later. So now I do something else. I take a gladiola, and this gladiola I put upright in. Then I make my pictures, see, looks like not very impressive. Then I take it upside down in another glass. Then I take the drops out, and then you see the following. You see the full water drop looks like this. How does the water know that the gladiola is upside down and this was upright? All the drops were here, like this. I turn it, and all the drops are here like this. So there must be information going from the stem of the gladiola to the water. So these are plenty of things for interesting research, but we are just looking for phenomena now here. So I go ahead. So this was an amber one day in Volvic water, and then you see that the drop reflects that the amber was in the Volvic water. We heard in the talk before about energy maybe going to the water from stones. So many people don't believe that you should put stones into water and drink it. And so people came and asked me and said, I don't know, let's try. And so obviously the water structure undergoes a change. Yeah. So this is colloidal silver water. I took this picture just for fun because it is very, very, very nice, I think. And we do a lot of experiments with colloidal water too. So this is something for homeopathy. Yeah, you see, we try to make homeopathy outside the body of the humans. Yeah, so we put a serum, we put a isotonic salt, and we put a viscum D6. This is a potential D6, and then we see this picture. And when we put a serum, a salt, and a viscum D30, there's a higher potential. And then you see this picture. So this means that the structure differs dependent of the potential of the homeopathic remedy you put in. And so this is a proof that you have, at least at this level, a difference, even when you have no meta change of the homeopathic substance. Okay, now I come a little bit back to the more serious scientific part. Are these drops similar? Is this method repeatable? So you see, these are 8 drops together on one glass plate, and you see how similar they are. They are not identical, but they are similar. And if I go to the next one, you see I can distinguish this row from this row. This was from the last slide. From this row, from this row, from this row, from this row. So, to a certain extent, I'll be very careful, to a certain extent I can use this to really, do some identification of phenomena and see whether things really do something. So this is, for example, an ultrasound on the water, and I see the impact of the ultrasound on the water. Now we go a little bit to electromagnetics. So this was a student. He went to the dentist, and before the dentist could x-ray him, he said, "Stop." I put a little bit saliva up from my mouth, and then the dentist did the x-ray, and he said, "Stop." I put a little bit saliva in my bottle, in the second bottle, and then 3 minutes later, or 2 minutes later, he put a third part of saliva to the bottle. You see, before his saliva looked like this, then directly after the x-ray looked like this. And then 2 minutes later looked like this. And he came back, showed it to me and said, "Hey, this was a great idea. We didn't expect that something like this happens." And then we started to do a little bit about mobile phones and how to investigate this. Well, we put a mobile phone into a metal pot, because to make it so that it should not switch off. And then we took the water out of the metal pot, and this is a picture of the water. Then we put the mobile phone on, 3 minutes, working. Then we put the water out, and you see this was the pattern afterwards. You see a very clear difference, and you can see, okay, this water, I could say, memorizes that this has been in an environment together with this mobile phone. So all this, what I show you here, I've shown, you can also interpret as a memory effect of the water, because you have a certain impact from outside and or from the history of the water, and then you can see this stinging, at least for a while. Well, sometimes it stays maybe 2 hours, sometimes it stays 3 months. So this is dependent on the water and on the impact, of course, but mostly on the water. There are stable waters and there are unstable waters in this sense. Oops. Then we say, if this happens to the pot, why can I not do this in my head? Because when I take my mobile on and I do a phone call, then what happens with the water in my head? So this was before It was a saliva of a human before a telephone call, and this was the saliva of a human after a telephone call. And you see that the structure of the saliva changes drastically, and since such a picture structure is an information structure which is in the body, sent to the steering system of the body and so on, then you can imagine that this, of course, has a lot of impacts to the body itself. So was this just by chance a good luck photo? No, you can do it. This is another person before. You see, even not the same person because his saliva looked like this, has a center and so on. His saliva looked like this, had a big rim and a small center. And after 3 minutes of call, looked like this. So always, if you have a phone call, the saliva changes its structure and loses all these, it's more rigid, I would say, rigid and flat. And in a normal case, if you're a healthy person, after, say, 3 minutes, it turns back to the original structure. If you are ill, it may stay for hours. So this is the experience we have with this. Okay, could we go even further? 2 girls, Annette and Katharina, came from the school nearby and said, we have to do in physics some kind of work, and we have the idea, we heard about your drops, and we like music, so we would test music in drops. And I said, oh boy, this is probably impossible, I have no idea. But they said, well, we will try. So then they sat down half an hour without music and took their blood. Blood is also a body liquid. And then they did photographs from the blood. So this is Annette without music. This is Katharina without music. Then they played half an hour, or heard half an hour Satie music. Calm piano, very soft, very nice. And then you see this was Annette, this was the blood of Katharina. Then they heard half an hour Deep Purple music. And you see this was the blood of Annette and this the blood of Katharina. And then they heard very aggressive, brutal rock, OTEP. This was the blood of Katharina, Annette and the blood of Katharina. Then they came back to me and showed this to me and said, what do you think about it? I said, I would not have imagined before that just the music can have this impact to your blood. But what do you do now? They say, okay, we avoid to go to the disco with the hard OTEP, so we prefer the Satie piano. Yeah. So we didn't follow this up, but they wrote a report of about 150 pages, using not only music and blood, using other body liquids and so on. They have been so fascinated by this. And I think at least this is an interesting and funny result. So now we leave the electromagnetic waves and go to ultrasound. So we said, what's about vibration? And so before the water looked like this, after treatment with ultrasound looked like this. We had always the structure inside. And then we said, could it be possible that plants are able to realize the structure which is inside after the ultrasound? And then we had grass plants growing. You see the left one was watered with this water, and the right one was watered with this water. And we saw from about 10 experiments that the right one, watered with the ultrasound water, was always growing faster than the left one. So obviously the plants are able to see, to feel somehow what kind of water is used. And so even the ultrasound would have such an impact to let the plants growing faster. Okay, now is a big break. After treating with electromagnetic waves and with ultrasound, the world was very, very nice until this happened, what I show you now. Because one day in the morning, it happens that the experimenter was sitting there and doing drops like this. And then a strong emotion happened, something in his family and so on, and he didn't tell it. The door opened, he got this message. He was emotionally disturbed, and he did further drops. And all drops looked like this. And then he came crying and saying, I don't know what happens, because how is this possible? And then we thought that everything what I have shown you before was gone because of this. Then we had another experience. Some weeks later, all these drops, which should look like this, looked like this. They were eccentric. And I didn't know what to say. I said, well, probably you are eccentric. And again, she cried. And we thought about what to do. So then, how to investigate this? So we put a number of persons into a lecture room. We said it should be at the same time, at the same place, using the same water, using the same syringes, using the same type of glaze object slides. And so all these people had to make drops. And we did it we repeated this about 10 times, 8 times or 10 times. And then what we saw later was, this was the drops of the first, this was the drops of the second, drops of the third, drops of the fourth. So it was obviously a dependence of the picture of the drops to the experimenter. But the experimenter had never touched the drops. So we didn't know about, said there should be a kind of interaction. What kind of interaction could this be? And since there were many proposals, but we can only do what we really can do experimentally. So what we did is we started putting different kind of drops on the object plate. And we saw between some of the drops, there was an interaction. You see, the rim here and this hollow, and so there was an interaction. Between others, let me go further. Doesn't work. So now there's a little movie. You see there's a drop. And I tell you the idea, the proposal we had, because this takes a minute until the second drop comes. So we had the idea the experimenter is full of body water. And the drops on the glass plate are also water. And if it would be possible that there would be an interaction over a certain distance from water to water, then we see the other drop. You see how they run together, onto each other. They love each other, basically. Yeah? So they want to come together. And you see how really upset he is, yeah? And how this movement inside. So we have, I don't know how many movies of this kind. I have another one a little bit later too. So then we took one water as a reference water, and then the people were telling us, take the Ganges, the holy Ganges, it should make interaction, because this is the big interactor of the world. So we take the holy Ganges water, nothing happens, you see. Then we take an Hongo Colorado, this is a drop of Peru, and you see something happens, really. Here the rim is open, you see it, how they interact, even where here's a gap. And you see an artesic well, water, and really they creep almost one into the other. So you can tell that there are many forms of interactions over distances of drops dependent on the water. So it seems to be similar to sympathy. Some of you I find very sympathetic, some maybe not so much. So this is a kind of, these drops like each other very much, these don't. Yeah. So this is another movie. So basically we followed up this, and today we have the impression that at least this kind of interaction goes around 1.5 meters far. So all you are sitting here, you are basically all in this range of interaction. So we are socially a big water soup, more or less, communicating with each other. So you see again, two drops running one to the other, being very eager. So I don't know the physical explanation for this, but maybe somebody of you could help and know this, and we could come further in this. Okay, finally, I think my time is almost gone. This is, we call this filter water. This is reverse osmosis, and this was a nice picture from a filter water. And what we intended to do, what we did, was we wanted to transfer information from one glass, not of water. We took their, show this, we took their Edelweiss, dried plants, put them into a glass, and we wanted to transfer the information to a glass of water. And this we did through a resonance equipment and a little magnification. And here you see our result. We believe that this might be the information of the dried Edelweiss on this drop. And we will further go on this. This distance of this transmission was only about 10 centimeters, so it was not long, but at least if this is possible, this is the first step of bringing complex patterns, information patterns, or also of homeopathica or other medical remedies over to a water, and so you could copy these and maybe also change the content. So this was a first step to maybe to the right direction. Okay, I would like to stop here, but at the end I show you this is a shaman water from South America. If you make a drop, it looks like this. Lots of energy is inside, and many people find it so nice that I think at the end I would like to show this, because this means this is with water you can do many things, and even afterwards you see, after this, nothing is left on the glass plate. It is absolutely empty. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. If you have questions, please ask me. Yeah, Jerry.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. So, Jerry, yes.
Yeah, really beautiful. question. You see different colors. Now, in some of them, I saw blues and others. Does that imply that, if you see a different color, presumably the absorption properties of the water showing that color are different from the absorption properties showing another color? Have you thought about that? Does that imply different kinds of waters that you have, or something different?
Yeah, maybe you are right, but we didn't follow the colors, because with the microscope you can manipulate the colors pretty well. And so first we thought it's more important to look at the structure and the pattern, because later on we could also look at the colors. Colors are very nice, and you like it to see this going in the drops. But until now we are not that far that we got after the colors. But you might have been right, I think.
Yeah, if I could just add something to Jerry's question, I think it's exactly what you're saying. I think the same. It's exactly what you're saying. Its light is absorbed differently, and the structures mean different absorbance.
If you add a biological molecule to your pure water, do you change the pattern? For instance, DNA traces in the water, do you change the pattern?
Yeah, we have not even investigated what kind of, say, minerals, metals are in the water. We just take care that we always take for one experiment the same water, because there may be many substances in. We don't take the clearest water or distilled water, and it's unclear what it makes. It makes also structures, but we don't know really. But of course, the pictures I have shown you depend on the ingredients of the water. This is very clear. And because, well, some are more like crystalline structures, some are more like sedimental structures, so we have a number of different, structure building inside of this water. And we didn't experiment with living systems right now, except water like blood, water like saliva, and so on. For me it was very astonishing that the saliva, which everybody says is very unstable, gave such stable results here.
Thank you very much. One more question.
You did your experiments at room temperature.
Yeah.
Did you ever try 4 degrees centigrade like Emoto does? And why does Emoto do his experiments at 4 degrees centigrade?
We did this at room temperature. We did this also at around 0 temperature, and we did this at higher temperatures. We saw that basically the patterns do not change very much. The question to Emoto had a totally different method. Emoto had ice frozen, and then he melted the ice under the microscope. And this means he can only do this 0 or a little bit higher temperature. If you melt it under the microscope, you have the most unstable situation in the water. Therefore, Emoto got very brilliant pictures, but basically very hard to repeat. So he couldn't do this 2 times. And he visited us in the early days when we did this. And he said, well, if you can do something where you can really get similar pictures of one effect, then this would be a big improvement. Yeah, so this is this.
Okay, thank you very much. The last question.
Very briefly, I want to use my phone. This cell phone use causes damage. Have you looked at just the earbud or the speakerphone? Is it the call itself, or is it up against your head that makes the difference?
I think there is no difference, because we looked at the same time. We took the saliva, we looked at urine, for example, and you can see the destruction in the urine the same as in the saliva. You can see it in the blood. So it's basically as if the information is into the body, it's at once everywhere. So that's our impression.
Thank you very much for your fascinating presentation. Thank you.